I last saw our next guest checking in for the Fanatics party at the Super Bowl. And it was a delight to see her a couple times, ran into her a couple times at the Super Bowl, and thrilled now to have here on the Rich Eisen Show, 4-time WNBA champion, 5-time Olympic gold medalist. I could go on and on, but I just want to say hello to Sue Bird. How are you, Sue? Good to see you.
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's just jump straight into it here. The conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark, obviously front and center for the WNBA season, even though she's on clearly one of the worst teams that a number one overall draft choice got drafted onto. But I'll just throw that in your direction. What have you seen over the first couple of games for her, Sue?
Yeah, not the best start. I'm sure she's feeling that right now. But that's part of adjusting to the WNBA, right? Maybe not having it happen this early, but part of professional sports is you're going to have some stretches that don't go your way. You're going to shoot bad. Your team's going to lose. And how do you respond to that? So I'm sure she would like those 2 games back. Everybody's clearly got their defensive game plan built around her, which is a compliment. But you got to figure it out from there.
Well, I mean, when you first arrived on the scene up in Seattle, what were you facing coming out of UConn, having lost only 4 games in college, Sue?
Yeah. Getting used to losing. I remember the first game we lost, first game of the season. We actually played the New York Liberty, and they had Teresa Weatherspoon and Becky Hammon at the time. We lost to them, and I'm in the locker room having a little bit of a fit, right? A little bit of a tantrum. I'm not used to this, and everybody's like, "Oh, where you guys want to go to dinner tonight?" And it took me a second to understand that was also part of pro sports. You got to kind of bob and weave and deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Caitlin Clark check out of last night's game, I think for the final time. She looked pissed, Sue. She looked livid. You know, like she was like just barely slapping the hands of her coach and teammates. She looked really angry last night.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Let's not forget that she probably has arguably the most pressure that any women's basketball player has ever had coming into the WNBA. I mean, sometimes it feels like the weight of the WNBA is on her shoulders. That is both, like I said earlier, a compliment and warranted in a lot of ways, but also maybe a little bit unfair to put so much on her. And then to not play up to her abilities in this early part would be frustrating. The thing is, you watch the games, she's not even really getting that many great looks. Again, some of that is the other team's defense. So credit, she's played 2 of the top defensive teams in the league. But some of that is figuring it out. And it takes time too, right? Like we see it in every sport. A lot of times you have these teams put together and people want to see it click right away. It always takes time.
Do you think the commentary is infused with a disrespectful tone, talking about how good the opponents are that she's faced over the first 2 games, Sue? Like, this is a professional sports league that's been around 28 years. There are some really great professionals playing in it. I'm wondering how you take that part of the conversation here.
That's definitely been the conversation. There's been a couple of moments that have led to the narrative around, Caitlin's greatness and it translating. And there's been some people that have, basically put her at the top of the mountain right away. And I think that does feel disrespectful to current WNBA players. But at the end of the day, I mean, sometimes these conversations are good for sports. Like you want people going back and forth, even though it can be hard for the athlete at times. I think it is good long-term for the sport. But now everybody's saying the WNBA is obviously a legitimate professional league. I don't know what people expected. Diana kind of touched on this. It's basically, it's the adult grown woman part of this. People, have been playing this game for a long time.
Yeah, and she took a lot of heat. You're talking to Diana Taurasi. By the way, your mega cast, the 2 of you together, a lot of fun, Sue. By the way, for that. You're very welcome. She took a lot of heat for saying reality is coming. And kind of proven correct over the first 2 games. Again, this is just, it's a long league. We're marathoning, we're not sprinting, but I think she's kind of been proven correct.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the sad thing was just how it all played out, right? Having to have WNBA players, myself as a former one, Diana as a current one, and a lot of others being pitted against Caitlin. I thought that was really unfortunate because that's not the reality. Nobody was questioning Caitlin's ability. Nobody was questioning Caitlin's popularity, what she's done for the sport. How could you? I think at the end of the day, it's just competitive athletes talking about what they've already been through. So that was kind of the unfortunate part of it. I don't think that, saying a college player is going to have to adjust to a professional league is that crazy, but it led to this conversation. And again, at the end of the day, the proof was always going to be in the pudding. There was just like that 3 weeks of agony where we had to kind of wait from when the college season ended to the start of the WNBA. We all had to wait. And all you could do was talk. And the narratives that got thrown around, like I said, I think it was really unfortunate, especially for someone like Caitlin. Like, who wants to hear that these WNBA greats are saying this about her when that wasn't even really what was happening? It was just competition.
Right. She's also not she's not showing up disrespectfully in her own right. Right. I mean, like, she's not pounding her chest, and she's not, saying, yeah. Hope you enjoy your new flights, like, enjoy, look at the planes you all have. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's not saying that, right?
No, not at all. No. I mean, you can't say enough about how she's handled all this. It's incredible. And again, I think the unfortunate part was it was going to all what? Whether Diana was right or the quote unquote new fans we keep hearing about all the time, whether they were right. It was all going to what? Fall on this kid in her home opener. So it all got, trumped up. It got bigger than it was. But here we are, and now we get to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And Breanna Stewart even said last night after the game that she loved playing a packed house, full playoff atmosphere, which I imagine probably would not have happened in Indiana had they not, drafted Caitlin Clark, right? Like, coming off of an awful year like that, it wouldn't have been a packed house, is what I'm essentially saying, So, no. Sue Bird here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's talk about the rest of the league here. Who do you think we live in an aces world? Is that basically what we live in right now, Sue? What do you make of it?
Yeah, basically. I mean, back-to-back champs. They have pretty much everybody back. So someone has to knock them off. That's always how it works. Chelsea Gray hasn't played yet. That is definitely something that I think everyone's keeping their eye on. She is a huge, important piece to that team. And then there's some other teams that I don't think we're going to see who they really are until halfway through the season. Just a reminder, something that's unique about the WNBA is how short the training camp is. So, I already touched on this when it comes to Indiana, but it's really for every team that has new pieces, important pieces. It's going to take a second for these teams to click. And that's also where the Aces have a little bit of an advantage. But yeah, like usual, it's going to come down to injuries, sadly, right? It's like which team stays the healthiest. Right.
Just like, again, any other association. So what was your welcome to the WNBA moment, Sue?
Oh, man. I actually just told this to Ramona Shelburne recently.
Okay.
So we played against the Sparks. Michael Cooper was the coach. And I noticed their point guard at the time, Nikki McCrimmon, was picking me up full court, basically the whole game, was just being like a little over the top about it. And I was like, what the hell is that? And she ripped me a couple times, which, any point guard knows, absolute nightmare to get ripped at half court. So come to find out, there's basically a bounty on my head. I guess before the game, he was like $50 for every time you rip Sue. So she was richer that night.
Is that happening to Caitlin Clark right now, do you think?
I don't think there's a monetary bounty.
Oh, okay.
I don't think people want to get crossed up and have a step back three hit on them either. Yeah.
Yeah. A different time. No doubt about that.
For sure.
Did you ever deliver a welcome to the NBA moment for a rookie? Were you on the business end of something like that? A delivering end, Sue?
I mean, you've probably seen me play. I'm not really the one to deliver those, but I think I've had a couple. I've had some people tell me some stories.
But come on, what do you got?
No, the one I remember is actually Kelsey Plum, and it's not even that serious, but she was guarding me. It was a very run-of-the-mill routine play, but I was able to kind of break free from her, come off a down screen, hit a jumper, and I heard one of the vets on her team kind of yell out like, "No, you can't do that!" in almost like a slow motion moment. So I know I got plumbed that one time.
Okay. And do you remember all 4 of your UConn losses? Do they stand out?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It was only to 2 teams.
Go for it. Who are they?
I lost to Tennessee twice, and I lost to Notre Dame twice.
Isn't that amazing that you could lose so few times that you can actually remember who it was because it was only twice? I mean, that's pretty cool, Sue. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that's just college, though. Don't ask me WNBA.
Well,
that's
no, I mean, no, it's a different, it's a different world, which is again just the general sense of this entire conversation right here. Okay, well, it's great to have you on, Sue. I would love to talk more as the season goes on. Right here.
Let me know, and if you like the BTS show so much, come on anytime.
Will you please do that and invite me on? I would love.
Absolutely.
I would love to do it. You know how to reach out to me for sure.
Okay, great.
Can I ask one question? Do you mind?
Susan.
I'm going to hop in here. Why am I asking you? I'm going to ask it anyway, right? Hey, Sue, who do you like? Who's starting hot that you've been really impressed with? Because I do feel like all the coverage is on Caitlin, but there are so many other players that are starting to streak, and we know how hard it is to get in and start with a new team. The chemistry's not there, et cetera. So who is impressing you?
So I actually was at the Seattle Storm home opener. Obviously, I played there for forever. I'm now an owner. So this is a little bit of a plug, but Nneka Ogwumike really impressed me. We have Jewel Lloyd and Skylar Diggins-Smith, also 2 guards that, all-stars for pretty much their entire career. They'll get going, but Nneka really impressed me, just like solid. The other teams I've watched, it's only been, like, most teams have only played 1 game, so it's pretty early. Arike Ngumbawale, somebody I always enjoy watching. She falls in my category of people I'd pay to watch, right? I feel like it's like a more of an elite group when you'd actually pay to watch them. She had a slow start in their first half, but was able to hit like a dagger 3 late, had a big fourth quarter. So she's always somebody to keep your eye on, but it's still pretty early.
It's so funny. Rich, how much time do we have for this? I'm so used to being in the other chair. For this.
Ask Sue.
Yeah, because,
ask Sue. I don't know. I mean, go for
it. Right? Because I remember when I was a kid at ESPN and Shamika Holdsclaw was coming up, and I remember the excitement of having her there. I think she was the first woman to be on Slam, right? She was coming out of Tennessee. She was so hot and so exciting. We are selfish about the WNBA now because we have a 10-year-old hooper, and so she's into it. We're going to the Aces game. You don't know this yet. We're going to the Aces game.
Good to know.
And we're going to see Caitlin next week.
Hold on a second. Are we going to Vegas? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're playing here on the 9th.
I'm sorry, Sue. This is a conversation we could have had earlier this morning. Sorry. Continue on.
That said, we're selfish because we want to see the WNBA grow right now because we have a little girl who's watching and leading. And so, my concern with all the talk about the first question always being Caitlin is that we are ignoring so many other women that are coming up. But will there be a point where you're just relieved that that's not the first question? Like, where's your level of frustration as one of the greats and with so many other women out there? So where is your level with frustration there as to that being the first question?
I don't have frustration around that. I think that superstars do ignite leagues. They do carry them on. We've seen it on the men's side. We've seen it on the women's side as well. So it doesn't really frustrate me. It's her moment. She's coming off an amazing college season, drafted number 1. It's not really, there's no way around it. Everybody wants to see how she's going to do. I think the way I've always looked at it, as her popularity started to grow, particularly this last year, it felt like women's basketball in general, and then specifically the WNBA, was already on its way. The WNBA viewership and, all the numbers that people look at, that was already on the rise probably over the last couple years. And to me, Caitlin was just this match that kind of ignited it and just made it bigger. So she accelerated everything quite a bit. Obviously, the viewership numbers show that. But things were already on a trajectory that was headed upwards. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for her in a lot of ways. The excitement, the eyeballs, I'm really thankful for that. And then once they're here, you hope that they're going to see other talent. I saw Pat McAfee was at the game last night. He's tweeting about the New York Liberty and Breanna Stewart and players like that. So it's just she's going to bring eyeballs. It's going to expand everybody's mind. But like I said, it was already on the up and up. She just took it to another level faster.
And you guys, by the way, together was ahead of the curve on this. I mean, you guys were out there really kind of securing your spot here and branding it. We've seen the sweatshirt kind of blow up about, about the girls wearing, everyone watches women's hoops, but you guys were ahead of the curve. I have to give you a lot of credit, and you put your confidence there when maybe others didn't, and now you're reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
And just one last thing. I'm glad you mentioned Pat there, Sue, because he took a little bit of heat for talking WNBA on his show and saying, "Hey, we're kind of getting to see a whole bunch of people here," and it's just like, well, welcome. We've been here for 28 years, and I totally understand that. But Caitlin Clark is obviously in Indiana, which is where he is, and it is an amazing moment. And it is a fun time to be involved with the WNBA and watch it and learn and discover the, would you say, grown women, adult women league? You know what I mean? It is, and that you're like, hey, welcome, even though you maybe could have come earlier, but we're here, and I think it's pretty cool, very much so.
Yeah, thank you. I secretly, it's like two things happen, right? You're simultaneously thrilled to have this quote unquote new fan base. And then at times they can be a little insulting with their lack of knowledge, but they're just telling on themselves, right? Mm-hmm. With each comment, they just tell on themselves a little bit. So you can kind of chuckle. I do anyway. I think I give it a little chuckle and then I move on. It's all about growing the game.
Well, and I'm glad that you're here, and hopefully of many times. And truly, I'm more than happy to be on BTS, the Bird Tarasi show. Anytime you invite me, I will be there.
All right.
Hold
okay,
me to
sounds
it.
Good.
Thanks again, Sue. Great to chat with you.
That's
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah,
what a great invite.
I appreciate it very much. So
Yeah.
That's Sue Bird here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.